Hello folks, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor, this is my channel, and Happy New Year! I hope you all had an excellent holiday period, whichever holidays you actually celebrate, and it's now 2018. So yeah, I'm here to do a little bit of a chat about my reading stats for 2017 and my goals for 2018. So last year I didn't actually do a video. The last couple of years I've done blog posts, but I decided this year that I may as well do a video as well. So I've been crunching the numbers. So my goals for 2017 were to read 95 books, which was a little bit more than I read last year. I think I read 87 or 88 last year. Sorry, in 2016. Not last year. Last year was... this is going to take a while. So my goal was to read 95 books. And I usually track the gender, but I'm pretty good on the gender, so I didn't have a specific goal on gender of authors. I also had a couple of specific goals. For the second year running, I've been trying to increase the number of writers of colour, so non-white writers, that I have been reading. This is only the second year that I was tracking it. So basically my goal was to read more than I did the previous year, and the previous year I'd read 4 books, which covered 2 different authors. So that wasn't going to be too hard. And I also decided that I would track for the first time in 2017 queer protagonists. So books that have protagonists, or at least one protagonist that is, you know, LGBTQ+. So I decided to track protagonists rather than authors, because sometimes searching, like, race can kind of be seen pretty easily as long as you have a picture of the author. Not always, but most of the time. But you know, it felt a little bit invasive, you know, looking at, you know, trying to research the author's, you know, own sort of sexuality, I guess, so, or gender. So yeah, so I thought I'd go with protagonists, because of course, yeah. So anyway, I hadn't tracked that before, so my aim was just to read a few, and actually keep an eye on, you know, because these are the areas that I want to improve in. So yeah, so anyway, I read a total of 116 books. So I got to my 95 books in like October and zoomed past. By books, I'm pretty much meaning anything except fan fiction, so anything that's commercially available, basically. And so it's comics, sometimes it's short stories individually, sometimes it's short story collections or magazines, audiobooks, ebooks, all that kind of thing. So, and including this year, one children's book, because I'd already gone past, and so I included my Mr. Men Doctor Who book that I got for Christmas, which I read pretty much straight away, because, you know, I'd already passed my goal. So I definitely beat my Goodreads total. So I was looking for 95, I got to 116. So to break those books down, gender-wise, I had 79 books by women, 28 books by men, and 9 books / magazines, whatever, that were by multiple genders. So this is where you get your magazines and your anthologies that are edited by, you know, a team. So I just tend to do it by editors, if it's an anthology or a collection or whatever, and if it's a male and a female editor, that is multiple genders. So there was 9 of those. Yeah, so this year I was very heavily skewed on the female writers. So you know, that's not unusual. Sometimes I'm pretty even. Sometimes I'm quite skewed towards female. I am pretty much never skewed towards men. That's just, I've never really read a lot of male authors. So that's all right. So there's that. And in terms of writers that were non-white, I read 7 books. So yeah, this is including some comics, at least one comic writer, some poetry, and novels, basically. So I read 7, which is of course 3 more than last year's 4. So I achieved that goal. Tick. Still not a great number, but you know, it's there. And in terms of my queer protagonists, I think I counted 8, and that includes 3 issues of the Lumberjanes, in which it's not necessarily focused on them, but there are, you know, at least one issue was very clearly focused on a date between lesbian couples. So I'm including all 3 of those issues because they're definitely there. They're still, you know, even if it's not focused on them, they're still part of the main group. So that was 8 books with a queer protagonist of some sort. Sometimes it's not really clear, so I went with the ones where it was just really clear. There was some sort of queer protagonist, whether it was asexual or whether it was lesbian or gay. Or bisexual in one case. So yeah, that was, not too bad. Like, still quite low numbers, but you know, the fact that I'm now tracking it, I'm now thinking about it, and I'm trying to improve. So I have some other stats as well. I read 105 fiction, so whether it was short fiction, comics, whatever. If it was fictional, I read 105 items. I read 7 non-fiction items and 4 collections of poetry. So poetry doesn't really fit in fiction or non-fiction, so I just, you know, separated that out a bit. But so mostly fiction, a little bit of non-fiction, a little bit of poetry, which is actually increased because I think in 2016 I may have only read one poetry collection. So poetry is something I'm trying to get into a bit of, so it's all pretty new to me, but I'm quite enjoying it. So I read 20 items of short fiction, and in the past I've broken that down as to whether it was a magazine or individual short fiction or like an anthology or a collection, but I decided to group them all together this year. And so this includes magazines, it includes anthologies and collections, and it includes individual stuff, including novellas, because I read quite a few novellas. Like, I quite like novellas, so I read a few of those this year. But, you know, I still count them as short fiction because they're not full novels. But that doesn't include, like, YA middle grade type stuff, which isn't really the size of an adult novel, but, you know, it's still, I still just leave that as, you know, a novel. So yeah, like I said, 1 children's book, picture book, and 21 graphic novels. So I actually read quite a few graphic novels this year. Part of that is at the start of the year I did the Getting Graphic Readathon, but also because I did a couple of different 24-hour readathons. So I did Dewey's twice, and that kind of thing. So, and I also started reading manga this year. So I've read only a couple of them, but you know, so I have increased, I think, the amount of graphic novels that I've been reading. So most of those are either the mangas or the volumes of graphic novels, but there are a few, you know, a couple, 2 or 3 maybe, of individual issues where I was trying something out. Yeah, but that's pretty good, 21 graphic novels. And I think, the other thing that I like to keep track of is my audiobooks. So this year I only read 5 audiobooks, which I think is slightly less than 2016. But, you know, I have difficulty with audiobooks, and they're usually rereads. I'm not always in the mood for them. I tend to prefer podcasts. But I still did read and finish 5 audiobooks. And then there's the breakdown of what were rereads and what was brand new to me. So this year I read 36 rereads, which is actually only one more than 2016, which is, so I'm pretty standard on rereads, really. And that means that I read 80 new books. So even with just new books, I nearly reached the same amount of books that I read overall last year. So that was pretty good. I was pretty pleased with that. You know, I do love my rereading, but you know, it's actually a smaller percentage than I actually expected it to be, particularly given that I sat down and did a lot of rereading of my favourite classics, particularly Jane Austen, and I did a fair bit of Star Wars rereading as well. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with actually that number, that breakdown. So yeah, that was my 2017 in reading. The other thing that I wanted to, my goal for 2017 was to try and cut down, or at least slow down, my TBR, my physical TBR. I don't really care much about the digital TBR because, you know, it's actually not that big. But So at the start of 2017, I had 111 physical books on my TBR. As of today, I have 145. So yeah, it's still growing, but I think it's growing a lot slower because 2016 I actually bought a lot of books. But this year I was aiming to read more than I bought most months. That includes rereads though, and so you know, it was a bit skewed. And I do reread a lot, so yeah, I actually achieved that 3/4 of the time. There were only 3 months, so February, November and December, where I bought more than I read. So that's really good. I shall hopefully continue doing that. But yeah, the physical TBR is still growing slowly and I really need to try and cut it down. So that's one of my goals for this year. One of my goals for 2018 is, again, to keep slowing down and hopefully reduce amount TBR. That would be really good. My other goals. So I've set myself an overall reading goal of 120 books this year on Goodreads. Since I reached 116 in 2017, 120 should be definitely doable. So I haven't actually read any yet this year. So I should probably get on that while I've got the week off. But yes, so 120, that is my overall goal. And once again, I am going to try and improve on my number of writers of colour. So in 2017, as I said, I read 7 books by writers of colour. So I need to do better than that in 2018. So I've got a few on my TBR that will be included in that if I can get to them. So that's really good. Again, also I want to improve on my queer protagonists. So if I read 8 things in 2017, I want to get to, for example, at least 9 this year in 2018, just to improve, you know, just to keep thinking about it, keep broadening my mind, keep broadening my reading. So that's, you know, tick. The other things, I have some specific goals this year. So I have 16 what I would call biographies on my physical TBR. So these are, you know, biographies of famous people, whether they be autobiographies or written by somebody else. In a couple of cases, they're historical, like really historical ones, like on Lady Jane Grey and on, I think, Isabella, who was the Queen of England way back in the medieval age. And in some cases, they're like specific sort of modern human interest kinds of stories. But a lot of them are like famous people. So there's 16 of those sitting on my shelves. There's a whole bunch more that I want to get to, that I really would like to. Like, for example, Yolanda Dockix has just come out recently. There's a couple of Jimmy Barnes biographies that have come out in the last couple of years. But I don't want to buy any more until I've read some of the ones that I've got. So one of my aims this year is to read more biographies and try and reduce the amount that are on my TBR. I also have 22 physical short fiction collections and anthologies and 5 unread issues of Uncanny Magazine digitally. So that's my short fiction. I want to get some of these read. There's so many short stories on my list. And there's going to be more this year because, you know, once the award season kicks in and there's a shortlist for the Hugos, there's going to be a lot of short fiction reading then. But I want to get rid of some of the short fiction that is on my TBR. So I want to catch up on Uncanny Magazine, which I get every 2 months. And like I said, I've currently got 5 unread issues. Because I think the last issue that I read was issue 15, and 10 publicly, issue 20 is not out yet, but I'm a Kickstarter backer, so I get it early. And like I said, I've got 22 physical books of short stories sitting on my TBR shelf. So I want to cut those down. I want to end the year with less short fiction on my TBR. So, you know, that's another goal. And my final goal, as you've heard me, you've probably seen my video that I did in December for my series. I want to either finish or make progress on a lot of the series on this list. So I counted this morning because I did actually read some of these. They're incomplete series, but nothing's been published yet. And in the case of the Café La Femme series of novels by Olivia Day, I did actually read the novella in December. So that is now complete until the next book comes out. So there are 16 series that I'm in the midst of that have books published that I have not yet read. So I want to make progress. I want to finish some of these series. I want to catch up on some of these series. I want to, make progress on some of these series. So that is also my goal for 2018. So it's read 120 books. It's improve on my authors of colour and queer protagonists, and it is cut down on my biography TBR, on my short fiction TBR, and catch up on some of the series that I have already started. Those are my goals for 2018. Yeah, so let me know what you think. Let me know what your goals are for this year and how you did last year. And yeah, we'll see how it goes this year. I might do an update in the middle of the year. We'll see. All right, bye.